Hi everyone, welcome to Quick Trips, where I look at a game I'm playing and tell you what you need to know in 5 minutes or less. Today, we're going to be looking at the recently released indie title, Raji, an ancient epic. Let's get started. Raji is a top-down action game with some platforming elements. The developers have cited games like Bastion and Journey as influences in the design. Blessed by the goddess Durga, Raji must travel far and wide to find her kidnapped younger brother and fend off the demons that have invaded her homeland. The game is currently for sale on the Nintendo Switch eShop, but will also be available on PS4, Xbox, and Windows later this year. The title character, Raji, is thoughtfully introduced as an acrobat, an appropriate choice as she flips, climbs, and cartwheels her way through the gorgeous environments and combat arenas that make up the game. Combat is quite challenging for better or worse. Once you're past the initial tutorial sections, you'll have to move quite fast and keep up your attacks to stay on top. As you play, you will unlock multiple weapons with different ranges and upgradable effects. In terms of performance, the game looks amazing. The Switch does sometimes struggle to render those luscious environments properly, with some mild stuttering and frame drops when exploring particularly large or detailed areas. Developer Nodding Heads has announced they will be releasing a patch for some of these issues. However, that patch has not been released at the time of this recording. Overall though, I was pretty impressed with the game, and the issues that did pop up were fairly infrequent. Hopefully, the forthcoming versions designed for more powerful hardware will have an easier time. There are some issues with the overall gameplay. Platforming doesn't always feel fair, and there are times when I struggled with depth perception when jumping, which sometimes led to me falling to my death on what appeared to be a simple leap. Also, as mentioned above, combat can be a bit too frenetic, and it can be difficult to take care of large groups of enemies unless you're moving constantly. Overall though, these issues weren't that common, and upon death, you are always reset to right before your encounter, allowing you to try again without penalty. But of course, there's tons of great action games out there. The main draw of Raji is the setting. Raji is set in ancient India and draws influence from the many stories of South Indian and Balinese culture. India is a country with thousands of years of cultural history behind it, and it's rare to see a game in this setting. Raji gives the player a chance to get to know more about the names we've all heard in passing, like Kali, Vishnu, Durga, Garuda, and more. There's a chance you'll get to discover the roots of some of the influences in games we already know and love. Franchises like Final Fantasy, for example, drew lots of inspiration from the Hindu pantheon for various aspects of their design. The Hindu gods are tied very closely into the storytelling, as the story itself is narrated by Durga and Vishnu, who comment on Raji's progress in a way that almost reminds me of parents watching a child strike out on their own for the first time. For added flavor, you'll occasionally encounter large paintings on the walls, and you'll be recounted a story from the Hindu scriptures. I found these to be very interesting, but if they don't appeal to you, they're totally skippable. Raji clearly comes across as a labor of love, and much like the in-game story, the story of its development is also one of struggle and triumph. After a failed Kickstarter, the developers set out to fund their game any way they could, and one of them even sold her apartment. They had just about run out of money when they were given a grant by Epic Games, who helped them find a publisher. This passion shows through in its design. There's so much detail crafted into the environments, soundscapes, and story, and Nodding Heads clearly worked hard to share their culture with the world. I think if I had to come up with the best way to describe Raji, I'd compare it to the storybooks I read as a kid. The ones that retold ancient legends and folktales of plucky heroes, all with page after page of rich illustrations. My experience with Raji has been memorable, and I'd recommend it to anyone looking for a new experience to tickle their imagination.